Hey everybody, welcome back to Treasures Galore. It's been about 4 months since I made my last video, and it's not because of kids or life or work, even though I have been busy with all of those. It's mostly because I was left with a very bad taste in my mouth after videos came out, and then mostly because of the documentary Golden Greed. Now, I know a lot of you are thinking that's absolutely ridiculous. Others are probably thinking that here is another disgruntled forest fin searcher, which maybe so, rightfully so. But I want to go over what I thought of Golden Greed and a few other thoughts on what is going on. And the start of this video, I want to go over something really important, and that's why the title of my video is named this, is because of a recent interview that was put out about John Collins Black ruling out Yellowstone National Park for the forest fin box. I was pretty shocked when I heard that, and it sounds pretty convincing, but it's also sliced, and we're gonna listen to a little clip of it, and then also a clip later, probably about a couple minutes later into that interview. I find it extremely, I don't know, weird, I guess. So if you listen to the podcast with John and his friend Dave Colonna, right? He said he wants the solve to be the effing book. He didn't like how you had to go to interviews and you didn't have to, research all this stuff. He wanted the solve to be his book, right? He didn't want any of that. But now we have him ruling out one of the most popular areas that was searched for the forest fin treasure. One that many searchers are thinking that he possibly hid his treasure there. And then he's going to rule out this place in this interview that's not on his website. I don't believe. I haven't checked. Just taking someone else's word for it. He's going to rule out this area, right? And I'm like, why? It's so weird. And you guys gotta, let's just get into this. Let's listen to this real quick, okay? So, National Treasure, sidebar by Courthouse News. Okay? Listen to this real quick.
So I have a box called the Forest Fin box. It's an ode to his, and it has some of the items of his treasure in my box. I hid the treasure on some place I was searching that I thought would be a great spot. So you can rule out Yellowstone.
Okay, tell me how that makes sense, right? So you can rule out Yellowstone. Why? Because it was somewhere where he was searching where he thought it would be, so you can rule out Yellowstone. And that's weird because coming up, listen to this.
Blue Ridge Mountains are a beautiful area that's close to my heart. I got a chance to see Yellowstone for the first time when I was hunting for forest fin's treasure, and that's like being on Mars or some foreign planet.
Okay, so later on, he admits that he saw Yellowstone for the first time, searching for forest fin treasure, whether that is driving by or driving through, whatever, right? He saw Yellowstone while searching for the forest fin treasure. To my knowledge, this is the first time John Collins Black really states some place specific that he was looking. It's the only time. So he was in this area searching, and then he goes back. You backtrack 2 minutes, and then he's talking about it was in a place that he thought would be cool, so you can rule out Yellowstone. That makes zero sense to me. Now, if these people who made this podcast twisted it and made it sound like he was ruling it out, I would be very pissed if I was John Collins Black. Either way, I feel like he needs to make a statement about this. Because why rule out a national park? So in the interview with, I believe it was Treasure Hunt with Us, he said that he's not going to rule out any of those. He said he wasn't going to rule them out. And then here in this next podcast, I don't know if he's done any other interviews after that, the treasure hunt with us, but then he's ruling out one right now. Seems very, very odd, right? And it's pretty crazy to me that he admits that he was searching up there. And it seems like you're on another planet, which obviously he found that it was beautiful and out of this world. So just very, very weird. Does he rule out Yellowstone or does he not? I would love to get your guys' opinions on that. So next, on Jenny Kyle. So she is putting up. JCB decided to do another 6 questions, Forrest Fenn did, and so he's gonna do one of those with her in the next few months. And she's asking the community to send her questions, and then she wanted clarification on something, and she asked JCB, "Can you tell us, is the Forrest Fenn box in one of the 4 search states?" So, northern New Mexico, Colorado, Wyoming, Montana. And he said, yes, it is one of those 4 search states that his treasure is hidden in. If you are searching outside of those, Colorado, New Mexico, Wyoming, Montana, you are wrong. So get in those. He clarified that. Now, can you rule out Yellowstone? I have no idea. But I hope JCB gives us clarification on that. All right, let's move into why I have not made a video in the last 4 months. So Golden Greed, it dropped, March, something like that, right? And going into it, I knew it wasn't going to answer any questions. Wasn't going to tell us the ending. Jack wasn't going to be in it. We weren't going to hear any of the things that we wanted to hear. However, I didn't like the way it was set up, and you can tell kind of the direction they wanted to go by the title, Gold and Greed, right? They wanted to go over crazy searchers and the greed for it, and the lust for gold, which is fine because there was a lot of that, right? But that is not what defined the Fenn chase. And I get it. It's not a Forrest Fenn documentary. It wasn't going over his life, whatever. But what made that hunt so great was the man. The man. A lot of people saw him as a larger-than-life character, and he really was, right? You could go over, there was probably 5 or 6 parts of his life that could be just broken down and there could be a book about it. You go into his younger years about living in that time period with the wars going on. And, you talk to those older people in their 80s, 90s, whatever. They lived a crazy life. They lived an absolutely crazy life. So hearing all the stories about Yellowstone and his dad and grandpa and family was really cool to hear. But then you got the years about him being in Vietnam and a pilot and getting shot down twice. That's crazy in itself. Books could be written about that. And then he goes on to starting a world-famous art gallery, meeting all these famous people and all of that, right? That's crazy. World-famous art gallery, meeting all these celebrities. And then you got all the drama and whatever, right? With the forgeries that he sold, and then him buying San Lazaro and digging up San Lazaro, and then all the people on that side of it. He didn't have a PhD, he didn't have a college degree. Why is he, dealing with this stuff? It should be handled by a professional. And then selling forgeries, all that, right? And then it come to find out that he was a CIA agent. At least I think. I haven't seen anything on that, but I've heard a lot of people say that it is confirmed that he was a CIA agent and did a few things in Russia, which is crazy, right? And then he gets cancer. and comes up with this crazy idea of dying by his treasure chest. And that is a confirmed story because his friend Douglas Preston actually wrote a book loosely based off of Forrest's idea and plan called The Codex, which is a pretty good book, by the way, if you haven't read it. So, anyways, if you're doing this documentary on this treasure hunt, how do you not go over, like, spend the first episode going over the man? Why did people get so obsessed with this? Yes, it's a lot of money, which got ballooned out of proportion. I mean, by the end of it, people were saying it was worth $5 million, right? So, go over the man. The second episode, go over all the craziness, which they didn't even really go into. And I know people are probably going to, I don't know, not like this. Some people are probably going to get their feelings hurt, but I'm so past that point. I really don't care. I'm going to speak my thoughts. They spend a lot of time on these self proclaimed rednecks, right, that thought the treasure was under a boulder. Under a boulder. An 80-year-old man put this under a boulder. Like, how absolutely ridiculous is that? And I get it. It fits the theme of, losing your mind and it's gold, yada, yada, yada. And then this pilot who thinks it's on private property, which, if you watched any of my Fin videos, I can't really say much. Anyways, they spend so much time on just these few stories. There was so much more to the chase that happened. Good things. People finding their significant others. Raising money for people that lost their house in a fire, forest fire. Raising money for searchers that got cancer. I mean, there was so much more that could have been talked about that was good, right? And I get it doesn't fit the narrative and the theme, but still, they spend so much time on these crazy ideas that these people had, and only a few of them, right? And then there was also a whole bunch of other crazy stuff that happened that they didn't leave out, like people spending all of their money and losing everything. I'm not going to name names. We all know who it is, but there was a lot more stuff that could have been talked about too. And it would have fit the narrative, but they left that out, right? And then at the end, it was like, oh, give the family time. Give the family time. And then we're what, 5, 6 years out and we still have nothing? Like, why? Why, guys? Why can't you tell us where the treasure was? I don't understand. Why can't the video come out of Forrest Fenn going over it? And still, I know there will be people that will say, no, that wasn't it. It was hidden somewhere else. He just made that. Whatever, right? Just release it. So, I don't know. Just a bad taste in my mouth. I thought it was poorly done, And then I take a break, and then I notice that a lot of the Finn searchers are going to the Beyond the Map's Edge by Justin Posey. And I don't even get to the first chapter. I go to the acknowledgments, right? And I'm reading, and then I get to the point where he says, the Netflix series Golden Greed, The Hunt for Finn's Treasure, exists because you understood that this story needed to be told right. And I stopped reading the book at that point. That's how the story should have been told. No, that was not the story. Not even the slightest. So I'm not even getting into that hunt. I can't even stomach getting past that point. And then you got in Golden Greed, the huge part where it's like Justin found the hiding spot on 9 Mile Hole. We all know it was Rudy. Like, why take that from Rudy? Even if it was within a day. Even if it was within a day, right? Why take that from Rudy? I don't understand. Mention his name, give him some sort of credit. I don't know, it doesn't sit right with me. And then let's keep going on Beyond the Map's Edge. You have searchers talking to Justin about their solves. And then I saw a video of Cynthia, and and Justin wanted to take her somewhere. And Cynthia's like, well, this couldn't be the spot because of this and this. And I'm like, what is going on here? This is like the Forrest Fenn hunt happening all over again. It just boggles my mind. And then there's supposedly a checkpoint, right? And Justin came out and said, oh, someone's been within 200 feet. The exact same distance that Forrest Fenn said. There's a 200-foot searcher. Just none of that just sits well with me. And I can't get into it. Maybe I will. Maybe it'll be found before I can get over all of this. And maybe I will. Maybe I won't. I don't know. I don't understand it. So let's go into, so we went through Golden Greed. And then at midnight, Cynthia released a video titled, I believe it was something along the lines of what Netflix couldn't say. And, oh man. Alright, here we go. This is going to probably get me in trouble, but whatever. I'm just going to speak my mind. So Cynthia called Forrest her playmate and lover, right? And in the Golden Greed, she said their relationship got intimate, and she couldn't explain what that meant. So she met Forrest in October? So I don't know, 2013. So that puts Forrest Fenn at 83. So this guy that created this treasure hunt, and then you're going to get close to him when he's 83 years old. I know Cynthia's older, but not that old. Probably in her 60s when she met him. Still a 20-year gap, whatever, but he's 83, right? And then you're going to call him your lover. I don't know. Just doesn't sit right with me. And maybe it's more of a personal issue, maybe. I did a video on Jackie Kennedy. There was a chapter in Forrest Fenn's Too Far to Walk book, and it went over Jackie coming to stay at his gallery. And just the way he worded the chapter, it really made it sound like Forrest Fenn had an affair with her. And I was just going over line by line what he said, and I'm like, how do you not take it this way? How do you not take it this way? Forrest Fenn's the writer. He's painting the picture on what the reader sees, what the reader thinks, right? And just the verbiage, everything made it seem like he was doing that. And it was the only video that Cynthia commented on mine, and then went over the gallery and how she had to enter through the back. She couldn't enter through the front. And then she's like, well, how does this get you closer to the treasure? And my thoughts were, well, it doesn't, right? I'm just going through the book and giving analysis on what I think. Not everything that I say is going to lead someone to the treasure chest. So, anyways, I don't know if that's what just didn't sit right with me, because she jumped on that one, but, didn't comment on anything else. I don't know, but just the playmate and lover thing got me. And then in the Golden Greed, Forrest Fenn told Cynthia to spend a summer in Yellowstone, and then she would send him I've been searching here. Oh, there's no fish there. Just hint after hint. And then K-Pro, the whole dip your toe, oh, here's my Where Warm Waters Halt. Oh, did you dip your toe in it? All these hints behind it and getting close to searchers and all this stuff, just, life's not fair. Totally get it. But when you have a treasure hunt and it requires you to spend money on a book, because that's what Forrest Fenn told us to do. If you want to find it, read my poem, buy my book, right? What's the line between it's, fair play and fraud, let's say? Everyone spends this money and you tell one of your best friends or a playmate and lover where it is, or pretty close spot to it, let's say, and it helps them find it. Is that fraud or is that fair play? I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, but, these people that are not known, a lot of the people listening to this video, you stay behind the scenes. Maybe you don't post on blogs, forums, whatever. Maybe you do, but you spend all this time reading the book, going out searching, and then you find out that the creator of the hunt's giving secret information to these, inner circle people. If you're gonna do a treasure hunt, like, do it right. Don't do that. The fairest thing, like Cynthia said, is to create the hunt and then just let it play out. And then if it's too hard or if you want to give something else, release it to the whole community. But you can't talk about solves to other searchers. I don't know. Just my thoughts. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe people disagree. Who knows? And then she went over the video that Forrest Fenn went over, right? So there is a good website you can go to, thinchest.com, and it pretty much highlights everything that Cynthia said, that Forrest said in that video. And I know a lot of people do not believe in this, don't think it's the right spot, whatever. In my mind, I don't know, with all the evidence and everything, I have a hard time not thinking this was a spot. Even though it was so obvious that how did it go unfound for 10 years, right? And for the non-fin searchers, you're going to be like, well, it's easy to say that looking back that it was obvious, which it is, right? Hindsight's 20/20. But it was. So when I hear people saying, oh, the past and future box, it can't be in California, it's too obvious. He mentioned California, we got to exclude it. I'm just dying inside, right? Like, Forrest Fenn made it so obvious on where it was, the river, the spot, whatever. He made it so obvious that sometimes that's the best, like hide and seek, right? Sometimes the most obvious spot is the best spot to hide because people are like, oh, yeah, it's not hidden there. That person's not hiding there. It's way too obvious. So in his book, The Thrill of the Chase, it's a weird book, right? This guy lived a crazy life, like I talked about. And then he's going to write chapters about stealing a pie from this cafe and sneaking behind a tree and eating it. And then walking by this pie factory. And this old, the smell came out, and this old grandma lady would break a pie and he could have it for 50 cents or whatever. And then a ball of yarn in his room got too big to fit out. Sneaking outside, sitting on some dude's grave marker. A whole bunch of just weird stories that apparently didn't have any hints in them, I guess, according to Cynthia's video. But weird book. And then you get towards the tail end, and then it gets serious. And then there's a chapter called Flywater, and it gets really serious, talking about pretty much dying, getting to his old age and reflecting. And he mentions this book called Flywater. And on page, so this spot right here is one of the first spots that I came up with, along with many other searchers. In the Golden Greed, Justin Posey acted like he was so smart because he figured it out, but there was so many people that had this, guys. So many people. And so he talks about this book called Flywater, and it was a lot of places that he fished as a kid, and talks about this book. So a lot of searchers go and buy the book, myself included. And on page 71, it talks about the Madison River. And it says, formed by the Gibbon and the Firehole, the Madison River runs out of Yellowstone Park and travels across a stretch of Montana before contributing its waters, plural, to the Missouri River. The Madison is something of a monument in the trout world. For decades, even anglers from troutless Midwest and South were reared on the Madison River, tales which trickled down to them through pages of Sports Afield and Field a Stream. Although increased fishing pressure has significantly altered the experience over the years, in the hearts and minds of many, fly water is still defined and measured against the Madison River. So you have these two rivers forming one, which he calls waters, and it's one of the best fishing rivers in the world, right? So then on page 105, it says brown trout were first stocked in the Firehold in 1890. 100 generations worth of adaptation. These trout not only survive, but actually prefer the warm water of the Firehole. So, it talks about, in the book Flywater, it mentions the Madison River as waters because of the two rivers combining, and then also you have the warm water of the Firehole joining into the Madison, and it was first stocked by, or brown trout were first stocked there. So, Homer Brown, first stocked there, brown trout, in warm waters. That's how I first thought of, that was my first WWH. Wow, is it that simple? And then, in The Thrill of the Chase, in that same chapter, he talks about those great places which were personal secrets to me then are now busy with the flourish of fishermen and women who cast the image of floating Cadiz upon those same waters, never knowing I had been there. I always thought that space was mine alone, and many of the memories there bred are even now still so personal that they exclude the intrusion of strangers. How dare they go there? So then it goes on through this. He says waters 4 times. If you do a little research, it is talking about the Firehole River. And he describes it as waters 4 times. In Too Far to Walk, he talks about his secret bathing spot along the Firehole River, where you could move your body and make it warm or cold. And then in the preface of Too Far to Walk, he talks about how special the Madison River was. And he even gives a distance to Too Far to Walk, which I believe he said 10 miles. But we all, according to this finchess.com, it was 4 miles. So anyways, if something seems super obvious and you're going to exclude it, you might want to think twice, because it could be the difference of you finding $1 million and not. So anyways, let's go over the solve to the Forrest Fenn box. Where warm water's halt, like we said, the Firehole and Gibbon go into the Madison River. Take it down canyon, downstream. Too Far to Walk was 4 miles. Below the Homer Brown was 9 Mile Hole, famous for brown trout. And you put in the water just below the fishing hole, which was Fenn Rock, right here. Which was actually in The Thrill of the Chase. There's the rock, 9 Mile Hole, father, holding up a line of brown trout. What's crazy to me, though, is Cynthia said this solve was the reason the B was capitalized, because brown trout's not capitalized, right? Is because of the elusive brown trout they could hook but never reel in, and they named it Mr. Brown, which is the dumbest thing that I have ever heard of in my entire life, right? Forrest Fenn said he spent 15 years on this poem, was like an architect drawing it up. And this is the solve. The most easy pie cutting, everyone thought of, whatever, right? So apparently a lot of people got caught up on this part right here. No place for the meek, crossing the river. In the thrill of the chase, there was a chapter, No Place for Biddies, and it talked about him crossing the street. So obviously there was a crossing of some kind. And when multiple people drowned on trying to either cross or float along a river, and Forrest Fenn didn't get rid of, rule out crossing a river, probably pretty obvious that there's some sort of water crossing involved. So this is where you cross. The end is ever drawing nigh. You're almost at the end. Paddle up your creek. I guess there's a wet creek and dry creek. I guess it was the wet creek. Heavy loads and water high. The treasure was heavy and the water was high crossing the Madison. Like I said, the most cookie cutter solve. The blaze. A lot of people had a problem with this one. He notched or carved on a tree and then placed the treasure chest down. I did a video about what I thought was the blaze, and I thought it was a mark on a tree. And so many people called me crazy because it couldn't stand the test of time, whatever. Forrest Fenn made it so obviously clear that the blaze was a mark on a tree, and I did a video on it. Now, when the chest was found and Jack's Reddit handle came out, it was just a random day, and I got blown up about asking if I had any conversations with Jack through email or anything else. I'm like, I don't think so. Why? Apparently on Jack's Reddit handle, he talked about my videos a lot, and one video that in particular that he talked about was my Blaze video. And I thought that was really cool. I may have had conversations with Jack. I actually was able to get into my old email. I may put that out at a later time, but right now I'm just gonna keep those to myself. Anyways, so it was a mark on a tree. I thought it was cool that Jack liked my videos, and hopefully as I go along and make more videos about there's treasure inside, hopefully maybe I can influence one of the potential finders. So anyways, that's about all I got for this video. Hopefully I didn't upset too many people. Like I said, I don't know anyone that I talked about personally, so it's nothing personal. I'm just giving my opinion, and opinions are, we all know what opinions are like, right? Everyone has one. So anyways, guys, that's it for this video. I want to make another one going over the Forrest Fenn box, especially now. I'm really hoping JCB gives clarification on the so you can rule out Yellowstone remark, because that is really, really interesting, because he said he was up there searching, or at least in the area. So anyways, I'm gonna make a video on that, and probably in the next week you'll see that. So anyways, guys, I will catch you on the flip side.